All right, back at it. Athlete Builder. I got my guy Lucas Lorian. I'm Jim Beebe. I'm in the library, and today we have Bart Womack. I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly, Bart. Uh, I could paraphrase like he asked when we were offline and say, "Hey, this is a really cool dude." Uh, However, let's just give him the credit that he absolutely deserves. Command Sergeant Major, retired U.S. Army, and made an impact up and down the line. He drill sergeant, ranger instructor, sergeant of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown, a two-time combat veteran, 101st Airborne Division in Iraq, and then Joint Security Area DMZ Korea. And he writes a few decorations include. Now I know he has more, but 2 Bronze Stars, 1 for Valor, Legion of Merit, Drill Sergeant identification badge, Tomb Guard identification badge, Army Ranger tab, Combat Infantryman. He gets out of over 29 plus years, heads over to Hollywood, makes an impact there, but also has his undergraduate degree, has his MBA. He's a mentor to ROTC folks and kids that are trying to make an impact as well. He speaks across the country with students, student athletes, colleges, and universities. So first, Bart, I know Memorial Day is for the fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and you're still alive, thank goodness. But I'm sure you knew some folks that didn't come back. So thank you for your service. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for everything you've done for us and for this country. It's great to have you on. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it, Jim, and thank you for the gesture of service and recognizing those who are not here with us. Thank you.
For sure. Shout out Angela Lewis. She was episode 82. She's one of our basketball experts, college and pro athlete and coach. She hooked us up with Bart, and she's made some great introductions. And when we had Bill Brown on, he's U.S. Navy SEAL, retired. At the end of our episode with him, I asked him, "What do you miss about being on the teams?" And he said, it's the caliber of the man, the caliber of the person you're working with at that high level. And we definitely have a high caliber person today. My first question, Bart, and I got a ton. You're in for over 30 years and you continue to make an impact for almost 20 after that. Why did you decide to go into the military?
It was a stumble. I finished high school at 17 and I was working. I had been working ever since, I don't know what age, 13 or something like that, 12 maybe, or a paper route that I had earlier. So maybe I was 10 or 11. Lucas might not know what a paper route is. You have to school. Anyway.
I had one of those.
So I enjoyed having my own money. So I had a job, and my next oldest brother had wrecked a car, and then I had to start taking a bus. So I was taking a bus and I had to transfer to the bus that would come on my street. And I didn't feel like waiting for the transfer that day. I figured I would just, make a little hike to get to my street for that particular bus. And it was cold in the wintertime in Columbus, Ohio, where I was, native. And I decided I was going to the recruiting office to get warm. So,
No way.
yeah, I'd seen those guys in our high school, trying to recruit people as they were graduating and all that. And I just kept walking by their table, when it was in the high school.
Mm-hmm.
But it was open. I said, let me go ahead and get warm. So that's what I did. I knew I had to listen to their spiel, let them talk for a couple hours. I'll be warm. Mission accomplished. I'll go home. And so, I had me some hot chocolate. I let them talk until I got warm, and then I left. Now I'm 17, so I couldn't sign up myself. My mother would have to, sign the paperwork. So I never told her that I went into that office, and I think that was like late October. It comes November, he would call, but he would never catch her at home. I would always be the one there answering the phone. Oh, she's not home. Can't do anything.
Too bad.
Too bad. 2 more weeks would pass by. Anyway, so I finally told my mother what was going on. She said, well, you'll be 18 in a week or so, and which was December, and you can make a decision for yourself. I said, okay. So that month came. I still didn't do anything. So fast forward, come February, I finally said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't know what was the catalyst that said now, but there was something, right? And while I was working, I went back to work. I took a day off. I took some time off, I should say, to take all the testing and all that. Went back to work, and I was going to let them know what was going on. And I go in there to tell them and said, well, we're laying off. So I never even got to tell them. So it was perfect timing. Ended up being a perfect decision for me. Had no idea would stay that long, but yeah, that's what it was. It was no strategy at all.
My goodness. So sometimes they'll have recruiting offices right next to others. So the Army might be right next to the Navy and the Air Force and Marines. Was there just an Army office only that nearby that you walked into?
So this was kind of it was linear. So like you just walking in almost straight, and
Hmm.
those other offices were like the Army was in the back.
Okay.
So I passed by those other offices, but this was pretty late. It was probably 6:30, 7 p.m. or something like that. Again, I just saw the lights on, the door was open, so I went in. So no one else was there but the Army guy. I don't know how it would have been influenced otherwise. Had there been others, maybe I would have stopped at the first one, but no one else is in there but him. So
Gotcha. So you
yeah,
didn't really look at the Navy or anything like that. Okay.
no.
You a big Buckeye fan?
Huge.
My man. Let's go. Let's go. See, I was born and raised in Cleveland, so we're gonna have a fun
Oh,
time today. Oh, I. Look at Lucas, you're not happy. All right, so you went Army. Now, most people won't know what MOS means, but that means it's your job. So
Correct.
when you enlisted, what did you hope to start doing in the Army? Like, what was your job going to be?
Yeah, well, my job was I call it a personal records specialist.
Okay.
I knew nothing about the Army. I mean, like absolutely nothing about the Army. Um, Now I joined in 1977, so I got some good genes, and I drink the water and have great skin care and all that. But anyway, um, but I knew nothing. But I did see some of the Vietnam War on television. That's probably about as much as I knew of what was being shown on there. Um, but now we're post Vietnam, so nothing was being shown. So I really didn't know anything. The recruiter said to me, "You don't want to be out in the cold shining tanks." And I said, "You are correct." Now remember, I went here because I was cold, so he knew that much. And I
Sure.
didn't know what shining a tank meant, but I didn't think I was up for shining a tank in the cold. So that he kind of influenced what I would do. I didn't really, I didn't even look at all the things that I was available to do. So he kind of helped me with that, and that's what ended up happening from the very beginning. But I realized that I didn't want to be inside; I wanted to be outside. So it became infantry pretty quickly after that.
Infantry pretty quickly. And I'm looking and it says drill sergeant, ranger instructor, sergeant of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown. And a common theme there is there's a number of common themes, but attention to detail, integrity, discipline, checking every box all the time at the highest caliber seems to be kind of a thing across the board there, right?
Yeah, no, that was strategic. Strategic, sorry. In the beginning, I knew that the drill sergeant was the person that was the most recognized. This was the thing that leaders needed to do. Um, People respected drill sergeants, so that was the top of the list.
Mhm.
I became a drill sergeant. I was 23 years old. Now they don't take 23-year-old drill sergeants nowadays. I was 23 years old when I became a drill sergeant. And but the learning experience, you learn very quickly that okay, you go to this school and they teach you how to really instruct. That's really what it is. How to teach a drill sergeant, how to teach basic rifle marksmanship, how to teach people how to march and all those types of things. Now, how you do it, that's up to you. It's going to be individualized and your spin on it and all those things of how you become a teacher or an
Mhm.
instructor, right? So I learned those things early on in my career. I would say was, super instrumental in the trajectory of how things went because I've already checked that box very early of doing one of the elite things as a leader in the United States Army.
What as a civilian, the main thing I know is things you see in documentaries, reading books, but Lee Ermey in Full Metal Jacket, right? He's the he's a Marine.
Yeah.
No, I think he's a Marine drill instructor, right? And he
Yeah.
was like a real life drill instructor in the military, and
Yeah.
they tabbed him for that acting role. And he's pretty, there's the discipline of teaching and instructing, like you said, but there's a different level of motivating that goes on there that's pretty severe and quite entertaining if you're just watching it on film, right? It's different when you're feeling it. And things have evolved. 77, that's a good almost 50 years ago, and things evolve with generations, etc. What was similar and what wasn't?
Could not do the things I did then, no one can do now.
Okay.
So I was a drill sergeant from 82 to 84. Now, I would say that while I was in drill sergeant school, ironically, what's the movie? An Officer and a Gentleman was out. So
Right.
𝗪𝗂𝗧 is playing the drill instructor.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So he's saying maggot and all kind of things. And he's a Marine, but still he's a drill instructor. So I'm watching on the screen. Hey, I'm in school for this right now. And here's this guy. Obviously, has a great technical advisor there schooling him. But it was still it was still kind of pivotal in some things that you could possibly try or whatever. Totally different environment, all those types of things. But and then you remember what your drill sergeants did, I'll say did to you, or how they led, or how they did some of the things. So you have that in the back of your mind. And now sometimes we carry a lot of things forward. I would say be careful with what you carry forward, in that, if someone says that this way we've always done it, then that's probably not, the outcome is probably not good. But I think as a drill sergeant, you learn your way. And I could line them up. I mean, I think when I was in basic training, I had 3 different drill sergeants. I think we had one, and then he left to go to another platoon or someplace. I don't know. You don't know when you're a trainee what the heck's going on. But I ended up having 3 different drill sergeants. They all had 3 different personalities. Now you can watch the ones in your platoon, and then you watch the ones in other platoons, and you can see how they are different. And I had drill sergeants from Vietnam. So how they interacted versus the ones who weren't was totally different. So you kind of shape, how you're going to be within all the rules and regulations and all those types of things. And I remember to a point where we had to start telling trainees how many push-ups you would do. If I say drop, you'll do 25, then you get up. Because we made what might come out of our mouth, you just do push-ups until I get tired. Well, obviously, there's no limit on that. I remember, and I had the opportunity to train females for a year and males for a year. I think it started with the males and then the females. But I remember we had females this particular cycle, and somebody did something. There was probably about 3 or 4 of them. I remember having to do push-ups before we went into the mess hall for breakfast, and it was drop and do push-ups. Well, they're probably supposed to do 25 and get up, and I went into the mess hall, right? So I'm in there, and drill sergeants are eating last.
Oh, no.
And I got my food. I'm sitting down, I'm eating, and the drill sergeant comes over to me and says, "Hey, you still got those people out there doing push-ups." I said, "Oh, I was
Right.
here to do that." I was like, "Oh," he said, "Oh, I got him. I got him."
Oh my goodness, they're still going. Early on, after my oldest was born, maybe, I don't know, 3 months, my wife and I at the time, we got in the car to go to the movies, and we're like getting ready to back out of the driveway, and I'm like, oh shoot, baby's still inside.
Oh, wow.
Dang, we looked at each other like, holy shit, we are not parents of the year. So I get it. You make a tiny little assumption that can bite you in the ass, and that's okay. Everything turned out okay.
I'll tell you another story about being a drill sergeant. So you have to be very specific about your instruction.
Yes.
That was a case in point. But there's sometimes you finish with a group. So basic training those days were 8 weeks long. So you finish with a group, and it's graduation. Graduation is in the morning, and then maybe at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., you're picking up trainees again on that same day. Now think about it. 8 weeks you've gone this far, and you taught them all these things where pretty much things become kind of automatic in what they do, and all, it's automatic. They've gotten there. Then you pick up these new ones, and
Uh-oh.
you may say something, and then it kind of starts all over again. Oh, be careful what you say. They take it to a different limit. Or you say something, you forget that they're brand new and not in week 6 or 8 or whatever. You say something, you have an expectation that no one moves. They don't know what the hell you're talking about. So
Right.
My
you have
older
that flip around, very, very quickly. And you guys in football, it's like, okay, year to year, the guys that been there, know the program the year before versus the ones who don't. And, but you are well aware of taking those guys, that are freshmen or new to the program aside and doing something different for them to bring them up to speed. And in today's world in college football, heck, they're coming in December out of high school just to get with the program. So come spring, they'll, know a little bit more. So yeah, you get it.
my older brother was in the military. He served in Iraq, Afghanistan, like 2005, 2001 to 2008, something like that. And I remember him telling me stories about drill sergeants. When he was in basic, I guess he got a little lippy with the drill sergeant, and the drill sergeant with the brim of his hat kept headbutting him
Oh,
in the nose and messed his nose all up. He was bleeding real bad, just really working him a lot. So he's just he got a little bit too lippy, and
yeah.
they
Wow.
let him know quick.
To your point, Bart, about taking over a new crew, the great legend Hall of Famer Vince Lombardi, every football camp, he'd start off with the same statement, and he'd pick up a football and he'd say, "Men," he's holding his ball in his hand. He goes, "This is a football." That is the most basic thing. Those people had played football already in their lives, and he brings it all the way down to the basics and making sure that if you have a huge understanding and grasp of it, then you have a better shot. Obviously, when you bring in new enlisted folks, some of them are going to be squared away already, in shape, strong, disciplined. Some are going to be just the opposite. They had no other options, no other future. They're trying to get their life turned around. But every once in a while, I got to imagine, just like as a coach, some of those young men and women too, they get a little confident and they think, "Hey, man, you know what? I'm probably better than Sarge. I'm probably stronger. I'm probably a little bit faster. I bet I could do more push-ups than him or more pull-ups." My understanding is that as is in shape and as capable as they are, the drill sergeant's got to be much, much more for whenever they get tested, so you guys can set the tone and then earn the respect of the troops. Is that accurate at all?
That's fairly accurate. I mean, in part of the selection process, it's probably just going to be the standard PT test based on their height and weight and all those types of things. It's not you know, off the charts like it would be, for being a Ranger, for example. So,
Hmm.
and there's not a lot of opportunities to demonstrate that for the drill sergeant.
Sure.
It's all about the training and their training and all those types of things. There may be an offset to a race or something like that, or to run the 2 miles when they're doing the practice for the 2 miles in a PT test or something like that. You may get out there and run with them or something like that. But there weren't really a lot of opportunity. Now you could if someone challenge you, you could say, okay, let's do it. But in terms of the drill sergeant winning all the time, probably the drill sergeant is going to win is the drill sergeant talks about they can do a lot of push-ups.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Or when they're having them drop, I'm gonna drop with you every time. Some of those guys like do, but every time I tell you to drop, I'm gonna drop. So I'm gonna do the same thing you do. You get some guys like that, and
Hmm.
somebody might want to challenge them. But for the most part, to say that all of them can do that, that would not be true at all.
Okay. Okay. And
Not for that. Not the drill sergeant. No.
gotcha. Let's switch gears. The Tomb of the Unknown. That's one of my favorite things to see whenever I'm in DC, and it's right across the river. It's just south of the Lincoln Memorial, across the Potomac, and you're over there in Arlington, in Virginia, and it's always expanding in the land and the number of people that they're putting in there. The tomb represents soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that didn't make it back. We don't know the names of them. They just didn't make it back. But there's an unknown soldier there representing that, and there's a team that is constantly vigilant and standing guard. Can you talk, broadly about what that whole detail is, how specific and refined it is? My understanding is you guys take a lifetime oath. You need to have a fiscal requirement to meet the uniform, regardless of of the weather or circumstance, it is always protected and guarded. Can you talk about that a little bit, Bart?
Yeah. There's no oath.
I'd heard that you have to take an oath like you can't like drink for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's
I,
some.
I hear that a lot. I'm going to a Tomb Guard reunion in November.
Okay.
I told someone on the podcast before who's echoed the same things you just said.
Okay.
Uh, I'm going to tell them that I would ask you to buy me a drink, but we're not supposed to drink.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's going to be a big joke. I can tell you that right now. So that's not true.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not that holy. I'm
Okay.
holy, but yeah, that's not that holy.
Okay.
Um, it is. It's not a part of the job. Doing your job is a part of the job. And everything's about the unknowns.
Mhm.
It's not about self. It's not about the crowd that's watching. It's about the unknowns. Now we know unknowns can't see us. We don't know who they are. They don't know who we are. But it's that respect that we protect.
Mhm.
It's that honor. And those things are ingrained in you when you go down there, when you're selected to go down there to train to be a sentinel or a relief commander, or in my case, the sergeant of the guard. They're ingrained in you. And, there's a selection process. Depending on the overall strength in terms of the amount of people that are assigned, you have 3 reliefs. So the first relief is the tall guys. I would say it's probably starting at 6'6" and above or somewhere in there. Then second relief is below that 6'6", maybe they're 6'4" to 6'6", or 6'2"-ish, 6'4", somewhere in there. And then it's 5'10", and covering the rest of that gap, which is third relief. So I'm 5'10". So I just barely made it to be a relief commander for that relief. And I was a staff sergeant at the time, so staff sergeants are relief commanders. So it's like a squad leader in charge of a squad. In this case, it's a relief. And I'm trained as a relief commander. Everything that you see there in changing the guard, the guy that goes out there and does all the talking, ladies and gentlemen, have your attention, please. Somebody about to witness is the changing of the guard. That's the relief commander. The sentinel is the person who's walking back and forth. So all my duties and responsibilities are to lead that relief, as well as my ability to change the guard and train that relief as well. So when you're not working with training, depending on what the cycle is of the rotation down there, like you're off, you're training, or you're working. Obviously the standards are high. Everyone doesn't make it. Some don't even aspire to do it because they view it as being, something too hard for them. And we don't want them anyway. So we're glad they weed themselves out instead of wasting our time or coming out there and try out for it. So I think that most can be trained, but I think it's like anything else. Like you guys in football or sport or anything else, if you want it, if you have the passion for it and you're going to put in the work, then you will be able to achieve it. I would tell you then, and any of my fellow tomb guards who hear this, I don't know how they feel about it, but I'm just going to tell you Bart Womack's part is that there was nothing hard. That's what I wanted to do. So I put my mind to it to do that. With the training, you tell me how and all those types of things, I'm gonna measure up to those things to be a relief commander at the Tomb of Unknown Soldier. Period. So I won't say that there weren't. I'm trying to figure out what's really hard. I don't know that I don't know that any of it's really hard. I mean, if you have the ability to march and all those types of things, then it's not necessarily hard. You have to put in the work and train and all those other things to be able to do the inspection with the weapon with precision and all that. I wouldn't call that hard. Practice makes perfect. So there's a lot of creeds in the military that are associated with elite things. There's a Ranger Creed, there's a Drill Sergeant Creed, and there's a Sentinel's Creed. I won't go through all of it, but I would tell you that line 6 is my standard will remain perfection. So that's the thing that we, strive for every day.
Well, Tony Robbins and a whole bunch of others say success leaves clues. And from what you're telling me, that for any job that you took on, there was someone that was going to teach you. You didn't just show up to the tomb detail and have to figure it out. Someone's going to teach you here are the number of steps. Here's how we're manipulating our weapon. Here's the things you recite. But they teach you, and so the clues are already there. Here's the process. The process is written out. And if the approach is constant, relentless work towards perfection, then that's just a normal day. That's just how we go about doing things. And I find where people find things that are hard, that feeling stems from doing things maybe they don't want to do, or something that's quite beyond them. You said that the 8-week cadets or enlisted guys that you were training with as a drill sergeant were performing better than the first weeks, right? Well, sure, they had reps, they worked at it, and I'm sure 8 weeks into working at the tomb, you were better than your first week. And if you keep working at things relentlessly, so I think things get hard for people when they don't want to do the work. When you want to do something, like I want to go out with my wife, so it's not really hard to go to dinner and hang out and go for a walk or go hiking and have a good time. I'm doing something you want to do. If you're doing something that you don't want to do, then I'm like, well, shit, man, this is hard, because your mind is thinking, I don't want to do these things. But if you make a commitment to it, then all the other decisions go away because you made a commitment. Then, well, this is what's on the docket for today. I get up, I do my PT, then I have breakfast, and then I do this work until lunch. And this is just what's lined up next. Then this is just what's lined up next. I think you're right. When people don't want to do those things, you say, well, I don't feel like working that hard. Because I've asked people, why don't you train with us in CrossFit, or why don't you do powerlifting? Why don't you do this competition? And you hear, well, I don't want to work that hard. Okay, no problem. Because I can't want it more than you, right? Even as a coach or leader or sergeant. So that makes a lot of sense to me, what you just said.
Nobody's getting down there that doesn't want to work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the beginning the interview process, you're not getting down there if you don't want to work. But what the people who don't make it is just, I mean, if there's some way that you had this desire, you got accepted for the training, but you just cannot march with smoothness, precision, and all those types of things, that could possibly happen. You just don't have it. Some people have it, and some people just don't have it. You don't have the rhythm, and you have to be smooth, and you can't be bouncing all over the place. And some of that, I mean, you can't really. You can train it, but if they don't get it, and they can't make themselves, smooth and have that precision, then this just is not for you at this moment. Maybe go back and try again. I remember one of my soldiers that I had. He was just. It took him a long time to get up to par. I'll fast forward and say that he finally got his badge, but because of his passion for it, of trying to do it right, look great in uniform, there were just a couple of things that were just off. But he would work very, very hard to try to fix those things. So we would put him outside at hours when there weren't a lot of people out there, so that our standard of the whole tune would remain perfection. Like no one in the crowd was going to see something and even notice that it was off, even though they wouldn't know. And it wasn't really about them noticing it was off. If we go up there and we're watching, because we will grade how someone's doing on their walk. Come evaluate my walk. And everyone, that's going to happen to everyone. And if whatever the deficiencies are, it's what they are, and that's what they have to go correct. And if they can't correct them, then you don't go outside. You spend your time prepping everyone else. So it took him a while, but he finally got it. But he had the passion, determination, and he was advancing. It just was not at the pace of most. But that wasn't a reason to remove him from the tomb.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, they'll have other ceremonies as well. Dignitaries are there, someone
Yeah.
famous is being buried, and that's a whole different detail, right?
Yeah. So when like Memorial Day, right? So the president's coming down there or the president's representative. Then you have all the branches of the service that are on the steps, but that's when the sergeant of the guard, that's the person who's charged of the tomb, the job I did later, is the only person there that's interfacing with the president or their representative, with the wreath. So the sergeant of the guard's walking out with the wreath, the president or his representative putting their hands on there, and they're the ones that they're placing the wreath. And that's the way that happens there. But it's the sergeant of the guard that's doing that.
Gotcha. Bad weather doesn't matter, right?
Doesn't matter. We got raincoats. You got a winter type coat. You have a hat where the thing pulls the kind of the old police officer cap that had the badge thing up in the front,
Right.
and the thing pulls down over your ears. There you go. You got a scarf that looks more ceremonial than warmth, but that's it.
That's it.
How
Yeah.
bad does the weather have to be to not be there?
I've never witnessed it. I mean, they're never going to not be out there. Like never ever. So I couldn't say. I guess a tornado would be, if there's a tornado. I tell you my time there. So I spent 18 months as relief commander and 2 years as a sergeant of the guard. So in those 2 years, when you're turning your television, Memorial Day and Veterans Day, I was the guy with the president or his representative with the wreath.
Nice.
There was never even a time where, okay, it could be raining, but, so when I was there, get the years right, good questions. 1987 to 88, that was 18 months, and then 1991 to 93. I never heard of there was never a weather warning. There was never on the radar, there's electricity coming. Yeah, there was none of that. Now, keep in mind, they're walking back and forth. That sentinel's walking back and forth with a weapon, with a bayonet.
Right.
Like nothing says, hit me now with lightning, then that bayonet sticking up. But there was never a time, in my time there, where someone called down there and said, hey, this is coming. You'll have to go to the box.
Right.
So there's a box up there where the sentinel will be, like when there's a ceremony going on, then the sentinel's in the box. I never remember that. If it's raining sideways and it's like blowing him, now we don't want the guy out there, he's supposed to be walking down 21 and like the winds, we don't want that. So there, you may have to go to the box while that wind dies down, but not because of the rain.
I lived pretty close out, kind of in that area for a while. Weather doesn't really get too bad out that way for the amount of time I lived there. So
A couple times we went on the tour and we're watching the change. So, inadvertently, there's this sectioned off area where civilians and people shouldn't cross and get too close to the tomb. And some kid or some parent or both, they don't care, they're not paying attention. They cross it and they start heading up towards that tomb, and then it gets real quick. And that sentinel is pissed, and he gives them a severe warning, basically, get the hell out of here, you're gonna get shot. And it really each time I've been there, someone did that, and I was like, oh my God. And they tell you, don't do this.
Right.
It's like the people that go to Yellowstone National Park and they say, don't touch the buffalo, and they get close. The next thing you know, you got gored, and the person died. They have deaths every year because some idiot wants to touch the big fluffy cows and get near the buffalo, and next thing you know, they're dead. So it happened each time I was out there. Some kid gets too close to the tomb and gets his ass beat.
So here's a couple stories. So, last thing that the person that's out there, should be the relief commander that's talking, is it is requested that everyone remain silent and standing. Thank you. It ends there, right?
Yep.
And then he goes out and starts the inspection and all that. So now I remember times people are going to be sitting down. It's July, it's 98. with 107 index or whatever the case, right? And people are like smoke, and there's smoke, right? Mm-hmm. You have these aviator sunglasses on, and they're bent so that you can't even see from this side if you were behind me. Like you can't see. Awesome glasses, right? So, and you can't you can't see my eyes, but I can see everything. You know, so while I'm giving the thing, you can look and see. So you know who you're going to kind of give the warning to or whatever, because they could be sitting down while you're talking. But I'm not going to interrupt that initial spiel. But as soon as I finish, you know, I may just turn to them. It was requested that everyone remain standing during the ceremony. And then everyone around her, you know, that was just minor because the people around them were going to let it happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that going on, right? And then I remember, so as a relief commander, you're not trained to walk. You're not a senior relief commander. You're in charge of that relief, as I explained. But I remember one of my guys, he did something and it wasn't right. And he said, well, you know, Sergeant, you don't know because you don't walk. It's like, whoa, that's a good one. Now you have to keep in mind, military, as you move up as a leader, you know, you've come from, you know, that space before. So when you go to be a team leader, you've already been on that team. When you're a squad leader, you've already been in that squad or in a member of a squad. When you're a platoon sergeant, you've already been a squad leader and a member of a squad and a member of a platoon. When you're the first sergeant, you've been a platoon sergeant and you've been a squad leader and you've been a team leader and you've been a member of that platoon. So you're already done. When you're a command sergeant major, you've been a first sergeant. You've already done all these jobs before. So we get to say, I won't ask you to do anything that I haven't done or not willing to do. But in this particular case, because I come on board as relief commander, I had not been a sentinel. I've seen what they do. I'm in charge of them, but I have not personally done it. So it was like, ding, 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 ding. He's right. Okay, you're right. You're going to do what I just said. All right. So that was the first thing, because we got that squared away. So then
Right.
I just taught myself how to walk. So the guy you see walking, I just taught myself how to walk. So when I walk, you know, my blouse or my jacket, if you will, didn't have any rank on it, because the person walking can outrank the unknowns since we don't know their rank, right? So I taught myself how to walk. And so I'm going to fix this. So now I have done what I'm instructing you to do or correcting you or whatever. So you can't tell me that I don't know. So anyway, so I was walking one day, and it was after the guard change. And you know, after the guard change, people leave. They kind of get on the tram and go someplace else. But some people just kind of stay. And there was this little kid, right? He's all impressed, and he's trying to stand up straight and everything. And you know, so you walk down 21 steps, you stop, you face DC, change shoulder with the weapon. After 21, you come back down again, all that, right? So he's mocking me. So I walk down, he's over here outside the chains, he's walking with me. I stop, I face DC, I don't know what he's doing behind me. I, you know, finish, turn back around, face down the mat. Now he's on my left side. I come back down, he's walking away. He just kept doing that the whole time. I mean, and I see him, right? He's doing nothing wrong. And I so bad just wanted to stop. Stop. This is the throw him off. I couldn't, but you know, it was a kid, and yeah. And then there was another time.
So Bart shot him.
There's another time where I was walking, and so I would just say I'm facing kind of towards you. The tomb is on my left side. DC's on my left side. So on that side, there's some stairs that go down, and that's where other soldiers are standing during the ceremonies that you see on, you know, Veterans Day, Memorial Day. And they're blocked off down there, like you can't get around. Well, you can get around, but they're there. There's something there, so you're not supposed to move that and go around. Well, here comes someone up the stairs. I don't see him until they get to the top of the plaza. And I get the part on. It is requested that everyone remain outside the chains or whatever, right? Keeps right on walking. Now there's a guard up there that's a civilian that works for the cemetery. So he finally goes over to the guy. But I realized after the second time I give that warning that it's an older man and he can't even hear me. So,
Dang.
So I stopped after the second time. Got to be like, now I look like the fool, right? But I still look like the fool because this guy's guarding this and he told this guy to do whatever and he didn't do it, and like nothing happened.
Shit. Man.
So he still looked like the fool, but anyway.
Well, from there, I'm not sure where it fit in the timeline,
Mm.
but it wasn't just, instructional, detail where you went airborne, 101st Airborne, also earned your Ranger tab.
Mm.
That's a high level of commitment mentally and physically. Talk about high level of focus, the training, the ruck marches, the lack of food, when you're going through selection. What prompted the desire to uh, get more in the thick of things, get into combat, and go that route?
Yeah, so it started even before I was a drill sergeant. I was assigned to a unit, and it was sergeant first class there. So I think I was sergeant at the time, so 2 ranks ahead of me, above me, and he was a drill sergeant and he was a ranger, and I was just in awe of this guy, and I wanted to do those things. And as I said, the drill sergeant thing came first, but I just picked his mind, about the ranger thing more. So after drill sergeant school, I wanted to go at the drill sergeant, at the center of the drill sergeant, I wanted to go to ranger school, but then the Department of Army wouldn't allow me. So I went to Korea. Then the old guard. So I didn't even know about the old guard. When I was in Korea, a guy that was squad leaders, he was a squad leader in a platoon. He had come from the old guard, and then he was leaving Korea and he was going back to the old guard. That's how I knew about the old guard. He said, "You should come here after your tour." He left like 8 months. Yeah, about 8 months, 9 months before I left Korea. But I had put in my packet to do that. And then when I got to the old guard, he told me about the tomb and all those types of things. So the tomb was not on my radar. I didn't know anything about it if it wasn't for my good buddy Wayne King. But Ranger was. So I actually went to Ranger school from the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I got to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in October of '86. I was there 2 months, and then I had to go to a what's called the advanced course, advanced non-commissioned officer course, which was at Fort Benning, Georgia. And then I was there for like 2.5 months. So at that particular time, I probably spent more time in ANOC for short than I had at the tomb. Then I finished ANOC, then I went back to the tomb, and then got my badge. Then got back in March, got my badge in May, and then I was there for June, July, August, September, October, November. Sorry about that. 6 months, and then I was off to Ranger school. And then back in, first week January or something like that. And then I left in May to go be a platoon sergeant. So in that 18 months, how many? 5 was in schools.
Mm.
Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, but I knew that was something I always wanted to do. It was known as being the best infantryman. Like, this is what you should aspire to do, if you can. That's the way it was presented to me. And that was kind of my jam of being the best that I could be. Not to mimic the logo.
Sure.
I saw that commercial there, but that was the best that I could be, was being an Army Ranger.
Well, essentially, that's what Lucas and I are doing here. With Athlete Builder, we're trying to build people mentally and physically be the best version of themselves. Jesus wants me to help, that's my calling, to help people do that, and that's one of our things that we're trying to do. That's why we have you on the show. And one of the themes I keep picking up from you is, you said you saw this sergeant in the Ranger program who you wanted to emulate and be like, so you kept picking his brain. And so one of our 6 tenets is knowledge, right? Just because you're a driven person in the military, you still have to know the things. You still got to know how to do all the things, right? There's a certain place where you put your finger before it goes on the trigger on your weapon, right? So you have to know how to do all the things. And when you surround yourself with a high caliber person, someone who's capable and intelligent and driven, and if you're around those folks all the time, well, guess what? You're going to start picking up those habits and elevating yourself. So anyone that listens, if there's something you want to be better at, you got to find someone who's done what you're looking to do, or who has those habits, or has that knowledge, because like anyone else, you're not going to get there just because you're driven. Like I could work really hard running around in a circle and I'm not getting any better, but I worked really hard, right? It's only a piece of it. So finding the right folks that are going to lead you and teach you and then hold you accountable. If you don't, honestly, if you don't take anything from this episode, take that. Go out and find one or two folks to put in your tribe that's going to help elevate your game. That's why we have Bart on the show today. Um, Under topics you said to discuss, you said situational awareness strategies. And I'll tell you, and when I'm in my gym, we have CrossFit classes. There's a number of people in my gym that are in the military or they're cops. And when we're doing a warm up, they might be like in a circle doing a warm up. Just everyone's having a good time. Everyone's warming up. They're trying to get ready for wherever the activities are. And I'll come up at an angle behind these guys or behind them. And I swear every time they know I'm there, right? And I'm a big guy and all, but a lot of times they shouldn't know I'm there, right? And it's like they got that spidey sense from Spider-Man. So just, you said situational awareness strategies. What's one or two that you could help us out that people are listening that could help them out to be a little better in their lives?
Yeah. I'm going to run through all of them quickly. And this really relates to trying to mitigate. So I save lives by providing proactive situational awareness strategies to mitigate mass shooter and insider threat attacks in academic institutions, the workplace, and places of worship. But it's not just those three places that can be mitigated.
Sure.
So when we're talking about being situationally aware, and leveraging these strategies, it's what you're doing. So I say first and foremost, like how do you trust? So I say trust no one, and then I let it sit. I know you think, well, yeah, I trust some people, but you don't trust everybody. So we can start there, and then, but what it does when I tell audiences this, it makes them think about how they trust. That's what I want them to do. I want to think about how you trust. We know you don't trust everybody. I don't know who you trust. That's up to you. That's up to them. But more importantly, how you do it. And what got me into the story, or I'm sorry, the situational awareness strategies is an attack that I was involved in where a fellow American soldier committed the attack. So you can imagine for me being a survivor of that, and had I not been watching Tiger Woods play golf, then I wouldn't be talking to you right now because I'd be dead. Mm-hmm. How trust kind of went right out the window immediately, even though he was wearing the same uniform. And even though I continued to serve with people who wore the same uniform, when that whole oath thing of raising your hand and, the Constitution and the blah, 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 I'm not trying to diminish what the words are, but I put it like that in terms of everyone's not living that like I'm living that. Just because you're wearing a uniform, I no longer expect them to live that just because you're wearing a uniform.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I can't say that I trust them because they're wearing a uniform. Then I'm from Missouri. You have to show me every single moment, not just every day, every moment that you're living those values and that you're living that oath before I even give you even a nano bit of trust. So trust is the first one. Then observe, listen, and report. If you get two of those into the category, if you can able to apply two of those, then we're on to something. You may not get all three, but two of them. Listen, don't just hear. And your wife may say, take out the trash, and you don't move. You heard her, but you didn't move. She knows that you are actually listening to her, because they just say, did you hear what I said? Well, you kind of heard, but you weren't listening because you didn't move.
Right.
The action of what she said is listening, and therefore you did something. We heard about active listening. So listen, don't just hear. Then there's gut check. That gut's telling you something. Just like your instincts in whatever sport you play, your gut's telling you something. Same is true when you're off the field or you're off the court or wherever it is. Your gut's telling you something about somebody. It may tell you something about someone's potential or the lack thereof. The same thing is true when you see someone and something doesn't look right, or they did something and it doesn't look right, and your gut's saying something about them. So there's a few of those strategies. And again, leveraging them the right way has proven in some of these attacks that we've been seeing, where had someone been situated and where that's close to them, those attacks could have been mitigated. And I'm gonna go quickly to the what incident that happened in Minnesota, where the guy had a hit list of politicians. I'm going to wait. This is what I do when something happens. I wait as they peel back the onion of motive or something, and someone new. And you don't just start this list, this hit list, and then commit the attack without having said or done something prior. So what did he utter? What did he say ahead of this? This didn't just start on Friday or Thursday. First of all, he got a list. I doubt he created a list in one day. This built up. So as it's building up, he like he sat at home and kept his mouth shut. He went from point A to point B and kept his mouth shut. Something was said. It may not have been, I'm going to write a list and kill all these people, but then it may have been some of that. So we'll wait and see. I digress a little bit, but my point is, if we apply those situational awareness strategies that I mentioned, even to that, I bet you, Jim, one of those things that I just mentioned in terms of a strategy is going to apply that could have helped in mitigating this.
A few things about that, on on an infinitely less severe level. If you're all playing on the same football team or basketball team, you're wearing the same uniform, you go to the same practices, and you start to assume we're going to have the same level of effort and putting out, right? And that's not always going to be the case. We're not going to always have the same level of effort and integrity, maybe during practice or the games or outside of the practice. And there are clues. But when you're doing all the same things all the time, and confidence comes from reps, and if you start with a level of I don't trust anybody, and you start seeing one rep of them doing something right, like a push-up or their detail or their homework or completing a pass, you're like, all right, he did it once. Can you do it 2 times in a row? Can you do it 2 days in a row? Can you do it for an entire year? Can you do it under adversity? So you start seeing some trends that helps you then decide, I trust this person on my team or as a soldier. But to your point also, that no one just went off the deep end and went on a killing spree in one day. Like, you decided to join the Army not the day you went in there out of the cold. You decided after you talked to your mom about it. You went there multiple times. You thought about it for a while. It had to build before. I can't get someone to come to the gym the first time I talk to them about it, to make a commitment to just be a little bit healthier, let alone to commit to all the work involved of going on a killing spree. So I wanted to ask you about those situational strategies, because it leads into the title of your book. So the embedded enemy, Bart also has a history of working in Hollywood and producing films, working with films with a military angle to him, but has written a book. He's an author about a situation that was near and dear to his heart, which is now slated to potentially to be a movie as well. So can you talk? I don't know if you're even allowed to discuss these things. Things are classified. Things are, I can't know these things, and that's totally cool. I want to be absolutely respectful of that. But what can you share with us about the impetus behind your book and potential movie here, The Embedded Enemy? What can you tell us?
Yeah, everything.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so March 23rd, 2003, I was, sitting in my tent there. Ammo just came that day. I was loading magazines, and this object comes into my tent, and I see these sparks. But even prior to that, I'm loading magazines. We had the only television. I'm sorry, there's 2 televisions, but we had one in our tent there. Me, the commander, and the executive officer of the brigade combat team. And I'm watching Tiger Woods play golf. So I had seen golf a few days prior. Tiger Woods is playing in, I think it's called the Bay Hill Invitational at the time, and lapping the field. So I'm settling in. I got some snacks, load my magazines, and I'm focused on Tiger, whipping the field, right? And I had gone to the Masters the year prior when he won, so it's pretty cool. And then this object comes in, and I see these sparks, and I know we're in the land of not quite right, and I'm thinking this is a not quite right grenade that's sparking before it explodes. So the executive officer is in the tent as well. He sees what I see, but the commander is in the back of the tent asleep. So I jump up, go to wake him up and say, hey, there's a grenade about to go off. We got to get out of the tent. I'm waking him out of, dead sleep, trying to prevent the dead part, right? And tell him, get your boots on, we got to go. So I'm going to count to three and we're going to get out. So I count to three, take off running down the middle of the aisle. I make it out of the tent. He doesn't make it out of the tent, but I don't know why. So I'm calling for him in hushed tones because I know we're in attack. So I want to silhouette myself and holler, and still no response. Then I hear a gunshot. So now I know the executive officer has been shot because I can just tell that, right? Now I pull out my weapon and point in the direction of the, I try to cock it, point in the direction of the of that gunshot. But when I try to cock it, it doesn't cock. Remember, all my ammo is on the table there. I'm loading it and have a magazine in my weapon, but I don't have ammo in my weapon. So when you try to cock it with a magazine, it just goes instead of screaming around. So I'm screwed. So TOC is about 20 feet behind me, so I run to the TOC, ask for a weapon, ammunition, and nod so I can see. Come back out, go to my tent to look for them, and neither one of them are there. I go back to the TOC, tell someone to go to my tent, the vicinity of my tent, look for them while I look for the enemy. So we have all this stuff going on. So by now, a grenade has exploded in my tent, and a grenade has exploded in the second tent, and then the third tent. And now a second person has been shot. So we're doing a triage of casualties, trying to find insurgents on our camp with no clue of any evidence of them aside from all the casualties. We're putting out fires because some of the grenades are called the fire. That one that came in my tent that sparked was actually an incendiary grenade that started the fire. I couldn't identify it that quick. I don't know about you, but when grenades start coming in, I don't pause and say, hey, let me see what kind of grenade that is. Yeah, I didn't do that. So I didn't know that it was incendiary.
Gotta go.
Fire, yeah. But now we have all these casualties, and so we established what's called a CCP, casualty collection point, start treating the casualties, triaging them, getting them on a field litter ambulance, and over to the aid station that's on the camp. Helicopter comes in, loads up the first one, takes them to what's called a CAS, Combat Support Hospital. It's about a 1-minute flight away. Second helicopter lands, gets loaded. When that one gets loaded, this huge explosion is in the sky. And now we're thinking this is a coordinated attack. They're hitting us from the ground and the air. So that helicopter can't go the 1-minute flight to the CAS. It has to go 75 kilometers to a different CAS. That's what they're instructed to do. So still, we think we're getting hit from the air. We know we've been hit on the ground, and we have no sign of anything. Someone says that, I say something had to have changed in this camp. And then someone says that interpreters came in the night before. Man, it has to be here. It has to be there. We've been in this camp for 20 nights, 21 nights, and nothing like this has ever happened. That's the only change to this camp is those interpreters. Find them. We find the interpreters, interrogate them, learn they have absolutely nothing to do with it. So now we're back to square one. Where in the hell are the insurgents? So another thought comes that if they can come in here and create all this chaos with no sign of them, then we have absolute poor intel on their ability to fight. And we're going to be in a serious fight when we finally do cross the border and get in Iraq, because these guys are good. Our commander, as I mentioned, we had an incendiary grenade that came into my tent, but also a fragment came in and knocked him back as he was trying to come out. And that's why he went outside. Now, there's something about adrenaline that when that's really hyped, and I'm not a doctor, and I haven't even talked to one about this, but where you don't hear stuff. So I didn't hear that. I heard the gunshot, but I heard no explosion from a grenade, and there were 3 of them. So he comes out of that concussed state and says we need to get accountability of personnel. We do that. Then we learn that one person is missing, and so are grenades and ammunition. So now the search turns to one of our own, Sergeant Hassan Akbar. So our intel officer had been walking around the bunkers all night, had his pistol out, checking on people in the bunkers. Sirens going off, and we're instructed to go to the bunkers when sirens going off because the siren is a potential scud alert. And, is a scud alert. And so after learning that we're looking for Akbar, Major Warren, the intel officer, realizes there was a bunker he hadn't gone to all night. So he starts walking toward that bunker, and he says, who we have in here? So every time he, got toward a bunker, he would ask who's in the bunker. So he asked this time, and the person said, Sergeant Akbar. So Akbar doesn't know we're looking for him. And now that's the second time within, a few minutes that Warren has heard the name Akbar. So this camp is probably 10 football fields big. We got 5,000 people in there. 4,000 or so, about 4,200 or so are in our brigade combat team. The other unit was a support unit on the camp. So no, I did not know all 4,200 of my soldiers. Shoot me now.
Right.
So we didn't really know his name. That name didn't ring a bell to us when we were told it. Anyway, so Warren goes to this bunker. Once he hears that name, he holsters his weapon, just keeps walking, finds a way to get behind Akbar and takes him down, and that's how he's apprehended. So I mentioned our ammo came that day, but it was actually at dusk, so it was dark when it came. Subordinate commanders had the option to guard the ammo and issue it during daylight, or they could issue it, when they received it. That particular unit chose to guard it, and Akbar was one of the guards. So he took advantage of being a guard to start opening up crates and taking ammunition and grenades. He ditched his protective mask, put the grenades into his protective mask carrier. I told you he threw an incendiary grenade into my tent. I think he realized that when he threw that, there was no explosion and that he had done the wrong thing. Even though he had two more in the protective mask carrier, he didn't throw another incendiary grenade all night. So when asked, why he did it, he said to keep y'all from killing our, O-U-R, women and raping our children. So I had to pause for a moment, like, who the hell is our? Like, this guy took the same oath I did. He's wearing the same uniform I am. It says Army like mine, but he's saying our. So when I put two and two together of his last name, that he was, Muslim religion, and he thought he was saving the Muslim world. So that's what we learned at that particular time. And then 2 years later in the trial, we learned a little bit more. And I have to read this. I know it's not necessarily what's related to this. So he had a diary. In 1993, he writes in his diary, I do not like the military. They have too much control over people's lives. I suppose I'm just anti-government. A Muslim should see himself as a Muslim only. His loyalty should be to Islam only. Now, I will say, in Bart Womack's opinion, religion doesn't pull the trigger, people do. You can twist it and spin it. I can spin my ideology any way I want to for whatever I want to do. I don't need your approval or anyone else's, just how I feel. But my ideology or my belief doesn't pull the trigger. 1996, anyone who stands in front of me shall be considered the enemy and dealt with accordingly. 1996, destroying America was my plan as a child and as a juvenile and in college. My life will not be complete unless America is destroyed. Destroying America is my greatest goal. 1998, he joins the Army. So this was planned. My takeaway immediately was, that night, like, what signs did we miss? And that bothered me for a while. That happened in 2003. I wrote the book in 2013. Like, what did we miss? Now, one thing we give ourselves the utmost of credit for as leaders is knowing our people, our soldiers, and their families and looking out for their welfare. But you can't look out for their welfare unless you know them. So if we know them and we knew him, how do we not see a sign? How do we not see something? Well, based on what he put in his diary, we were never going to see that unless he showed it to us. And he never showed it to us.
Man, that's a long time to carry that hate. It's a long time to carry that plan and to hide that well.
Yeah.
Like people can't. It's hard to hide your natural emotion towards things.
And let me add to that. So that was he joined the Army in 1998. In February 2003, he writes, "I'm not going to do anything as long as I stay here at Fort Campbell. But as soon as I am in Iraq, I'm going to try to kill as many of them as possible." So, like you said, long time to keep that hidden, well ahead of the curve, if you will, in terms of these types of attacks. Since that time, I think everything's a copycat. Since that time, there's been several other people who served in the military to try to commit an attack against fellow soldiers. Back 6 years after this had happened at Fort Hood, where someone of the same ideology killed and wounded people in an attack at Fort Hood. So once they saw he got away, once he saw he was able to commit it, then they committed the same thing.
Wasn't it part of your oath against threats, foreign and domestic, like threats at home as well, not just those from abroad?
Yep.
Gotcha. So hence the book that you wrote, and hence the potential movie, but also your commitment to making sure those folks that passed or were killed received the accolades, the Purple Hearts, and it hasn't happened yet because it wasn't from an actual foreign terrorist, right? But so that's still another, calling that you have to live towards your core values and your code and do what's true to you in your heart. So that's a hard line of work. That's a hard life of work, and but it's one of impact, and we are better for it.
Well, thank you. I mean, those quotes alone said he's the enemy of our country, and that's what art is for. In a planned attack, I mean, I say arguably, we'll never know. I mean, I guess we could dig deep, but I'm sure Osama bin Laden said he didn't like America as well, and he wanted to destroy America.
Sure.
Like no one person can destroy the entire country, but you can destroy parts bit by bit, and that's what he did. That's
right. Well, you look like you're, similar to me. I'm 50, and you look like you're still getting after it and working out. What do you, switching gears? What do you like to do for your physical training?
I was in and out of the gym. I will tell you that in my career, I didn't go to the gym in the beginning. It took a long time. I remember when I was a Ranger instructor, I was looking for one of my guys, and they said he's in the gym, so I went to the gym. So, okay, let it be known that I was in the gym. And I picked up a weight, and I put it down. Okay, that's it. Then I left there and went to Sergeant Major Academy, and then, I started working out, right? And then I kept doing it. Got out, I would run a lot and go to the gym and everything. And then I worked in Afghanistan as a contractor. And I started running on the treadmill for the first time, and I went to the gym and everything then. I didn't like the treadmill because it just faced the wall. I told you that was just a wall. And so, I mean, I ran like all my life, but I got back and I didn't want to run at all. So I had that period. Then I started going to LA Fitness, had a trainer and all that type of stuff. I actually had a guy that was the first sergeant in the Army. And really it was accountability. Like you talked about earlier, like, you're going to go there, you're going to do nothing, you're passionate about it, what are you going to do, right? And Bart Womack wasn't good at pushing himself. I could push others, but he wasn't good at saying, do this. It just fell off. And so I had that guy for accountability, because what I was not going to do was say, I'm going to be here on this day at this time and not show up. I'm not going to allow you to talk about me in that manner, right?
Right.
So that's why I had one. So I kept doing that. And then I slowed down again. Bottom line, I'm now doing, I'm at 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗃 doing a HIIT training. Man, I love that. This is why I love it. One, I pay money. That's my accountability. Like, I ain't paying all that money just to give it to you for free. That's the
Right.
biggest thing of getting me out of bed in the morning, is that money, right? And then second to that is, I don't know what we're going to train on that day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even care. I don't want to know.
Sure.
I don't care if it's leg day, back day, cardio day, strip day. I don't even want to know. I only find out right before the training starts. That's the way 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗃 works, right? And I love it because I feel like I'm a private. Just do it.
I love
Drill
it.
sergeant, they tell me what to do. My job is to do it. Only
Love it.
choice I get to make is to control the speed and incline on the treadmill and what weights I pick up.
There you go.
So I'm in there and I'm burning 1,000 calories a day. And if I don't burn 1,000, then that means something on the floor just wasn't, necessarily, I was never going to get there. So like today, it just wasn't enough on the floor, but it was still like 950 something.
Mm-hmm.
Some days it might be 8 something because it's just the workout they do. Maybe you're doing some on the treadmill. And like, okay, you get to walk for a minute or walk for, a minute and a half or whatever. And it's like, you're messing with my numbers.
All right. So 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗃, I like that. You have an adventure that you haven't gone on yet you're thinking about doing?
An adventure?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Place you want to go or something you want to do? See?
Well, I would say it would be, I'm a golfer.
Okay.
I want to play at Pebble Beach. No one's on my schedule, just like up and go.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to plan that out. And you're like, well, you got to spend this. Dude, this it's the bucket list. Let's
Right.
go. The ball's going to go someplace, hit it, go find it, hit it again. That's just the way it works.
That's right.
So play Pebble Beach because it's, you can actually go there and play. Some courses you can't play.
It's public.
That one you can. So that's on there. There's that Alaska salmon trip.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I caught a salmon in Alaska a couple years back.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to get on the fish and
Yep.
you're going to have a good fight. I mean, can't be anything better than that. And you can, ship them back. They freeze them, all that stuff for you. So, yeah.
We were on this group and we caught a number of rockfish and a salmon, and we went over to this island where their makeshift kitchen was already constructed. They had a fire going, and they filleted that salmon right then and there. We
Yeah.
pulled it out of the water maybe 1 hour earlier, and we were eating it. It was absolutely cool. This next question I'm going to change a little bit. Usually it asks, what's your favorite sports movie, which we can still ask. But my wife and I, we like to watch a lot of military movies. So do you have a top 1, 2, or 3 military movies at all?
I do, but I'm gonna tell you Brian's song for my sports movie.
Oh, man, that's a good one. That kills people.
Throwback. Like no one's gonna say Brian's song to me.
That kills
In your
people.
podcast, no one's gonna say Brian's song.
Oh, man. Gale Sayers, Brian Piccolo, he's dying, so
Yeah.
my goodness.
And those actors, like we didn't know. I mean,
Billy D. Williams,
yeah, Billy D. Williams and Bill Conn. Now, actually,
James Conn, that's right.
James Conn, sorry.
Yep.
Met him twice.
Hmm.
He was in a movie called Garlands of Stone that was shot on Fort Myer, the old guard. So it's pretty cool. That and saw him when he was making another movie, the one where he was a football coach down in South Carolina.
The program.
The program. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Anyway, yeah. So obviously, those two faces came to mind when I say that. So military movie, unequivocally, hands down, A Few Good Men.
Right.
I'm a court drama nut. I love a great court drama. So I've actually, created I used the one from the Embedded Enemy story to put into the screenplay.
Awesome.
a great, courtroom drama. Yeah. But anyway, A Few Good Men. I mean, honestly, no kidding. I've seen A Few Good Men over 30 times in its entirety.
Mm. That's written by Aaron Sorkin, and I'm a huge Aaron Sorkin fan. He did The West Wing, the movie Malice, Newsroom, Sports Night. Excellent writer, and he also had A Few Good Men for the longest time running on Broadway,
right?
Before it became a movie, and so that movie's outstanding. And Tom Cruise did a great job with that. Jack Nicholson, awesome, right? I think my favorite military. It's not a movie. It's going to be Band of Brothers, which is a HBO series.
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan's awesome. I like
every year Memorial Day time. I watch the whole thing.
Oh man, awesome.
Yeah.
Is your favorite sport to watch and an athlete to watch?
Yeah, I want to spin this one more time for Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah.
They take down Bastogne. So my brigade combat team in 101st was the Bastogne Brigade.
Right.
Had to get that in. Okay, favorite sports? Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
You know why? The guy saved my life. God saying, Bart, you should like golf, and you should watch, follow this guy or whatever. And I'd gone to several tournaments following him, as I mentioned. But yeah, unequivocally him.
I tell my kids, we're talking about current athletes, and there's a lot of, outstanding Hall of Fame athletes currently, and every generation there are some. And I was telling my son, I was like, I'm 50 years old. When I was younger, my athletes, think about who I had. I had Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and Mike Tyson. Like, oh my God. And there's a ton of others I didn't even mention.
Yeah.
But from my generation, I'm like, that's who I'm watching all the time. Oh, it was just dumb. It was how awesome it was.
I was watching 30 for 30 just today. I thought I was going to be watching the NFL regular show, but that was on, and it was, it was like the OJ chase, right? Doing that, but on that day, and I think it was probably just the anniversary at this time of year, they were showing Arnold Palmer at the U.S. Open at Oakmont, where it just was.
Yep.
In '94, they were showing the Knicks playing Houston Rockets, and they were showing the Yankees playing somebody. The Rangers won the Stanley Cup. All these things were happening that day.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's just outstanding. You have from stories, like a favorite superhero or supervillain or both?
Nah, not in those things. But growing up, they had Superman the episodic.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can't be superhero if you're not Superman.
That's right. Do you have a book recommendation?
Woo! I cannot go away from Embedded Enemy. It's hard.
Right.
Yeah.
My man. Do you have a quote for us?
I have two quotes.
Okay.
And the first one is my takeaway from that attack, and I shared it, but I'll do it again, that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than you think. Bart Womack. And the other one is passion is the fuel for success. The late Kobe Bryant.
Beautiful. Where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Usually posting stuff on there where I've spoken or where I'm going to speak. Yeah, so LinkedIn, that's about as social media as I get frequently.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I have a website, bartwomack.com.
All right. Well, Bart, every once in a while we deviate from bringing on athletes and coaches, and I argue that if you're in the military, you're an athlete, and because you're doing things that are physical, and you're definitely a coach if you're leading other folks. And that's why there's so many military folks that give speeches to athletes, and so many former athletes that give speeches to companies, and so many company leaders that give speeches to the military, right? Because they're all interchangeable. A lot of the same lessons transcend and cross into other professions, and that's why we want to have people from the military on so we can learn from them as well. And we definitely did today. And again, thank you for your service and your commitment to this country. Thank you for all the help you've had. You've given it along the way. For those that want to reach out to us, info@athlete-builder.com. Bart, had a great time today, man. Thanks for being on.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I would say that soldiering is a contact sport.
It's gotta be, right? All right. Till next time, guys. See ya.
Yep.